What are children's realities in Europe? Read Euractiv's Progress and Gaps report, examining the state of poverty, social exclusion, and governmental efforts in 31 countries, and see what can be done to respect, protect, and fulfill children's rights.
Today in the EU, how Elon Musk's rise to power could challenge the Union. The EU and Elon Musk have clashed repeatedly since his $44 billion takeover of Twitter, now called X. But in the meantime, Musk's image as the chief advocate of free speech has been growing immensely. And now, his new appointment, leading a White House commission, is expected to shake things up and possibly challenge the EU's authority in regulating the digital world. So where does the EU stand in this escalating dispute, and how might Brussels respond to Musk's new role? Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Giada Santana, and this is Today in the EU. I'm here in the studio with Eliza Gritski, our tech editor here at Euractiv. Hello, Eliza.
Hi, Giada.
So you've been reporting on Elon Musk's businesses for years now. As a reporter, is there a point in time, whether sooner or later, when you thought, oh, wow, Elon Musk has now entered into politics?
Yeah, so Musk, in a way, has always been something of a political animal. All of his businesses and his whole brand is about large-scale change, right? Like Tesla is about EVs and batteries and climate change. SpaceX is about taking people to space and to Mars and to space and like interplanetary civilization. So in a way, all of these things are inherently political. I would say when he bought Twitter in 2022 is the point in time when he left that idea of like technological change per se, of like engineering our way out of these problems and into a better future, into more social change. And he was like playing around with a lot of these things a little bit in other ways, but it was always a lot more like tech oriented. In a more narrow sense, I mean, this U.S. presidential election is definitely the time when he's entered like a very narrow politics, which is like campaigning with Trump and donating and all of these things. And I think when he did that speech at Trump's rally in October, which was honestly not that long ago, is when, you know, we saw him like as part of a political campaign, like as what we consider politics in a very narrow sense.
As you can see, I'm not just MAGA, I'm dark MAGA.
Because obviously, like, tech billionaires always are, like, somewhat political. Like, they have also their own interests and their own ideologies and beliefs, so they will donate to campaigns. But having someone, like, so high profile being such a big part of the campaign was definitely... On stage, like, literally on stage, was definitely quite a big change.
Mm-hmm. And in a surprising turn of events, Elon Musk will now join the Trump administration. To me, he kind of talked this job into being. He mentioned it during interviews with Trump.
I mean, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things and ensures that the taxpayer money is spent in a good way. And I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love it
if it were formed.
What do we know about his appointment?
Well, we don't know much. Like, there's been discussions about this for the last several weeks. There was some questions around whether he would be in the cabinet, in the administration, or leading some kind of commission. Now they've started this Department of Government Efficiency, short DOGE, whose goal will be quite similar to what Dombrovskis is supposed to do in Europe, to cut government inefficiencies and excesses, reduce spending, kind of like take stock of how the U.S. federal government work on a large scale and see like where they can drive efficiencies, which is what Musk kind of does, or at least says he does. And there is a lot of reporting that he does do that, and that is how he's run his companies very successfully.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, he's claimed before that he's willing to cut true out of the $6.5 trillion that the federal government expenses amount to. So I guess we'll see what his plan is. But the whole concept of Doge started online from a meme.
Doge is like, let's not get too much into this. It's a cryptocurrency. It's a meme coin. So that's a coin that like doesn't really have any backing. Like it doesn't represent some kind of project, some kind of application. It's just like a coin. It's just money.
Right.
And it's tagged onto an internet meme. And so people like the meme and they buy the coin and the coin's value goes up. And Musk like loved this. And he used to say Dogecoin to the moon. He had proposed like that Tesla would accept Dogecoin payments for Tesla cars and all that kind of thing. And then the value would go up and down. I never thought that like Doge would enter the conversation in this way. And
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's funny that Musk and Trump agreed to make this meme part of the government in a way.
I mean, as funny as it is, it's also a very serious matter, especially because, according to commentators and journalists, Elon Musk's political influence exerts far beyond what Doge is or will be. He's been reported to be sitting next to Trump on important calls with foreign leaders, Zelensky, allegedly Putin, and he's been and Musk has been also publicly talking about European politics now.
But let's not forget the people in the administration that were also doubted before as to like why are they there, whether they're qualified to be there, whether they're exerting undue influence on the president. A lot of these people came and went.
Yeah.
Now, this Musk romance seems real, but like, let's just see what happens. I don't really know how much Trump does listen to Musk. It seems like a lot. And Musk definitely has donated a lot of money to the Trump campaign. And his businesses are tied to various like federal agencies and that kind of thing. So the conflict of interest red flag is gigantic. And yeah, on the question of European politics, I mean, Musk always has been commenting on various political things, right? We wrote a story about his comments on the Italy-Albania migration deal.
Yeah.
I think the point in time, which we covered extensively, where that kind of became a little bit more serious than just commenting for Europe, was in the summer when they announced the preliminary findings of the investigation into X. And Musk said that there was a secret deal. And then Breton responded with a letter, which apparently the commission didn't know about. And then Breton eventually quit. And apparently his response to Musk, it wasn't that like Musk tweeted at him, but his going that way too and following Musk's lead is ultimately what got him like a voluntary resignation.
More about this after the ad.
Children face many challenges in Europe, including inadequate mental health services and insufficient investment in the early years. We need to remove these gaps for a fairer present and future for all children. Read Euractiv's latest report, Children's Realities in Europe.
To put this into context, back in December 2023, the European Commission puts X under investigation for allegedly violating rules of the DSA, the Digital Services Act, and it's soon going to be a year since this all began. So what has the EU done so far concretely beside tweets?
So the commission moves what looks slow. So nothing really exactly has fully happened, but it is quite fast, like by regulatory standards. So far, there were 5 points of concern back when the investigation started. And we have what's called preliminary findings for 3 of them, in which the commission says, indeed, we think you have breached the DSA on this. Now, the company can respond. They have time to respond. They can work with the commission to come up with remedies to solve these problems. And then we're still waiting for 2 parts of the investigation, the findings there, which are quite important ones because they revolve around content moderation, which is the specific point that Musk and Breton and the EU are fighting over and clashing over. I think this is where things get truly weird with him being in the administration, because he said that the commission offered him a secret deal before they said that there's preliminary findings saying they were in breach of the DSA.
Yeah.
I kind of think that what he meant was that the commission can say, hey, we found these things, let's work on remedies. A lot of that happens behind closed doors. There will be some transparency theoretically later on, but that is just how things work. And it sounds like Musk thought that that's a secret deal and that that's unacceptable. I would like to note that what I'm hearing from the commission is different to the public profile that we see. And there is some kind of policy team that they are working with, that they do have regulatory dialogue with. So we shouldn't necessarily just believe into the Musk's X posts. But yeah, there is a lot of points of concern there, because if he's in the U.S. government, like, that changes
things
dynamic.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've made reference to content moderation, and at least in the United States, while in some parts of Europe too, Musk is seen as the strongest defender of freedom of speech, and he defends the First Amendment and this notion of unadulterated, integral, freedom of speech, because there's countries where that's not allowed, right? That's his argument. Do you think that this political narrative will shape Brussels in any way, and also how EU policy, when it comes to the DSA, is done?
Yeah, and I mean, we've already seen that. I think with all things, all issues, what's happening in the US, for many reasons, and one of them is the social media platforms. All of those debates are entering the entire planet in ways that they wouldn't necessarily be entering before.
Thank you so much for buying Twitter.
You're welcome.
I'm not exaggerating when I think you changed the course of history. I really think you made a fork in the road. We were headed down a path of censorship.
Yeah.
But already, I would say in Europe, we are seeing, the same framework entering the debate, with far-right parties talking about content moderation as being a type of government censorship, and that being unacceptable. Some of that was in Verkunen's hearings. It's also language that's echoed by other platforms. And I mean, they're not totally wrong, because the DSA is actually a type of government censorship, but there are mechanisms to prevent that from just being like government censorship.
There's guidelines.
There's guidelines. There's there is third parties that can flag content and that kind of thing. But I don't know. It is a big problem, right? Because content does need to be moderated, but who is going to do that? And it's not exactly necessarily a money-making business. So somebody has to step in and say that you have to do it.
Yeah, that's definitely a thorny question. And if we think of the case against X, it is tied to the credibility of the DSA. It's one of the biggest cases that happened under the DSA. Ultimately, if Elon Musk decided not to comply with what the European Commission is asking of the tech tycoon, what would be the last resort?
I think you're very right. And this is something I think about a lot, because it is a problem that we want to regulate platforms that are fundamentally not European platforms.
Yeah.
And you can have great laws, but how do you enforce these regulations when these guys are not here? So one thing that the commission can do, and they're likely to do, I would say, is fine X for non-compliance, and the fines are set at 6% of turnover. With the X case, and this is where the commission can also go a more aggressive route. There is talk, and we've heard this from the commission, that they might fine not just X on its revenue, but Musk as a person based on his holdings in total. The idea being that X is a private company and Musk is the sole controller of that company. So if you want to find the person ultimately making the non-compliant decisions, you find him. We don't know what revenue X has because it's a private company. I read some reports, it's about $3 billion in 2023, way down from before. Musk's net worth is $300 billion, which is a lot more money. So that would be very interesting. Then, of course, though, even if you have a fine, whether it's on X or it's on Musk, there might be a process of appeals, and it takes a while. And you need these remedies, for X ultimately to be what the commission wants it to be, or what the DSA says it should be. I don't know where that goes ultimately. I don't see the commission assuming that they can't come to an agreement as to what should happen, to have DSA compliance. I don't see the Commission banning X from Europe. Like,
Yeah.
that sounds intense. And they also don't have necessarily the jurisdiction or the tools to actually enforce that. At the same time, I don't also see X following with everything the Commission will want them to do.
Yep.
So who knows? It's anybody's guess. And I'm sure Trump will also want to have a say in how this goes down.
Yeah, we're in completely uncharted territory. A tech tycoon, social media CEO, now government official, right?
Yeah, and one that has a direct clash with the European Commission, which is the biggest tech regulator in the world.
Thank you, Eliza.
Thanks, Giada.
I'm Giada Santana, and this was Euractiv's Today in the EU podcast. Visit Euractiv to stay on top of the latest news, sign up for our newsletters, and if you haven't subscribed yet, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or your favorite streaming platform. Don't forget to leave us a star review. It will really help us spread the word about our work. This podcast was produced by Miriam Sainz de Tejada, Charles Cohen, and I. As part of our commitment to accuracy, inclusion, and transparency, Euractiv is part of the Trust Project.